What's up, guys? This is Kephas.
So I've been playing MMOs for a long time, long enough to watch what feels like every next big MMO rise out of nowhere, get hyped to the moon, promise to dethrone World of Warcraft, and then either quietly die, collapse in drama, or just kind of limp along while people talk about how cool the game is, even though they haven't played it in a while. And that pretty much sums up New World for me. I installed it, had fun with it for a couple weeks, and then just kind of stopped playing. Now, that's not the first MMO I've done that with. I've done it with most of them, in fact, but now that Amazon is pulling away from video games, it seems like New World's days are numbered, and that makes me kind of sad. Yet another MMO that had potential, had some fun moments, and then just kind of evaporated. It's becoming a genre-defining pattern at this point. MMOs launch, they get a wave of excitement, you see a couple videos calling it the next WoW killer, and then players try it, leave, and 6 months later, most of us are back playing WoW or Final Fantasy XIV like nothing happened. So at some point you have to ask, why is it so hard to make a successful MMO? Why do so many fail, and how is it possible that after all these years, we're all still basically playing the same 2 or 3 games? That's what I want to break down today. Not as a game dev, not as a market analyst, but as someone who has lived in this genre for decades and watched the cycle repeat over and 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 over.
Okay, Clay, I get the point.
No, you don't! And I think that the answer is actually pretty simple. Not easy, but simple. MMOs don't die for one reason. They die because 3 major forces pull them apart at the same time. The first is corporate expectations, greed, over monetization, or bad priorities. Second is developer problems, bad design, bad scope, bad decisions, or just not knowing what they're doing. And then of course last, might be the most controversial, but it's player behavior. Min-max culture, toxicity, unrealistic demands, and burnout loops. If even one of those areas is mishandled, an MMO suffers. If 2 fail, the game is in trouble, and if all 3 fail, congratulations, your MMO is now a Steam mixed review relic. So let's walk through each one from the top down, which means we're going to start with the corporate side. MMOs are one of the riskiest types of games you can make. High cost, huge teams, long development cycles, tons of content required up front, constant updates, live service maintenance, server costs.
But why? Why would you do that? Why would you do any of that?
It's basically the worst business model unless it succeeds, in which case it becomes a money printer for the next 10 to 20 years. So from day one, the pressure is less about making a great game and more about making a game that is profitable enough to justify existing. And that's why you see over-monetized games, monthly subs plus cash shops, paid expansions plus paid cosmetics, pay to skip, pay to progress, pay to win, pay for convenience.
Hello, I like money.
That's also why so many MMOs are designed around engagement instead of being designed around fun. The problem isn't that MMOs are trying to make money, because of course they are. The problem also isn't that they want to keep you engaged, because of course they should. But far too often these things get in the way of the player's experience. Actually having fun with the product that they paid for. That's where the problem comes in. I always think back to the mission tables in World of Warcraft. The classic send your followers out on missions for several hours and then come back and collect the rewards later. I mean, even though you weren't actually doing anything, Blizzard saw these 5-minute login windows as good engagement. So good that they kept these stupid things around for 4 expansions. And that mindset kills a game over time because it creates systems that feel like chores, not adventures.
What makes a game great is the gameplay. Is it fun to play, or is it a boring chore?
Daily time gates, FOMO events, currencies on top of currencies on top of currencies, log in or fall behind, come back or lose progress, play now or miss out forever. That's not a game, that's a job with loot drops. Sooner or later, unchecked corporate greed becomes too much, because the more you squeeze players, the faster they quit. The more you nickel and dime them, the more they check out emotionally. And once a player disconnects from a world, it's over, and MMOs live or die on emotional connection. WoW survived in spite of Blizzard's monetization, not because of it. Final Fantasy XIV survived because Yoshida literally rebuilt the game around respecting the player, not exploiting them. Corporate decision making is the #1 killer of MMOs, because you might treat the game like a product, which is indeed what it is.
Don't ask questions, just consume product and then get excited for next product.
But in order for it to succeed, the customer, your players, need to see it as a living world. Which leads us to the second layer, the developer problem, aka, why does your MMO suck? Even if you have a reasonable business model, an MMO still has to survive the people making it, and the harsh truth is, a lot of studios just don't know how to design a good MMO.
You know, you read what others had done, and you took the next step. You didn't earn the knowledge for yourselves, so you don't take any responsibility for it. You stood on the shoulders of geniuses to accomplish something as fast as you could, and before you even knew what you had, you patented it and packaged it and slapped it on a plastic lunchbox, and now you're selling it. You want to sell it. Well,
some aren't experienced enough, some don't understand player psychology, some just copy WoW and hope for the best, and some, like WildStar for instance, listen too much to a very small portion of their audience. WildStar is one of the clearest case studies in designing an MMO for 1% of players. They made the game for the sweaty hardcore raider crowd. They listened to Reddit and private discords and speedrunners, and surprise, 99% of players bounced because the game literally wasn't designed for them. New World kind of had the opposite issue. They didn't listen to feedback enough or implemented it too slowly. They had big ideas, but bad execution. A great world, but not always the best combat. Great atmosphere, but no long-term glue. Black Desert, amazing combat. Terrible everything else unless you're okay with mobile game level monetization. Elder Scrolls Online, it's okay I guess, but I always just kind of felt like it was the worst version of Elder Scrolls. Ideas might look good on paper or sound smart in meeting rooms, but fall apart the second real players touch them. And here's a harsh truth that nobody in the industry likes to admit. Most game devs do not actually play MMOs the way normal people do. They either play internally like an insulated power player, listen to the no-life top 5%, or treat player feedback like noise. And on the flip side, if they listen too much to players, they get dragged in 10 directions at once. Players contradict each other constantly. Players think they know what they want until they get it. Classic WoW succeeded because Blizzard finally listened. It was pretty clear what players actually wanted. Nostalgia, friction, community, identity, a slower pace. The classic experience. But I genuinely sympathize with them when it comes to Classic Plus, because there are far too many people that want too many different things, and no matter what they do, they simply won't be able to please everybody. Good MMO design requires vision, not pandering, not spreadsheets, not just make it like WoW but newer, vision. And that's rare, which is why we haven't had a new genre-defining MMO in like 15 years. Now, this part might be a little bit controversial because I'm going to acknowledge a truth that few like to admit. Players ruin MMOs just as often as developers and corporations do. Not all players, but a very specific kind. And what I'm referring to is the min-max culture that optimizes fun out of the game, the gatekeepers who kick new players for not knowing mechanics, the players who consume content in 24 hours and then complain there's no content, the people who think a game is bad if it doesn't reward them instantly, and people who turn every game into spreadsheets and DPS logs. And before someone says skill issue, let's be real. Most players aren't bad, they're just normal. They don't play 8 hours a day. They don't want to watch 6 hours of YouTube guides before queuing for a dungeon. And they don't want to be screamed at in a +5 because they didn't read an Icy Veins page. They just want to play a video game. But MMOs don't exist in a vacuum. They're social spaces, and if the social space feels hostile, elitist, impatient, or joyless, people leave, and who could blame them? This is why Final Fantasy XIV has the best reputation in the MMO genre for how it treats new players. Because new players are identified and assisted while the community is moderated and protected. You act like an ass, you get banned.
You're out of there! Go on, you're gone. Go on.
Meanwhile in WoW, you join a random dungeon, you make one mistake, someone tells you to kill yourself while the group kicks you. And then both Blizzard and the community are scratching their heads wondering why new players don't stick around and they can't find tanks.
You made me what I am. No. You chose your own destiny.
And don't even get me started on the live service speedrun problem. Developers try to make content that lasts for 3 months and players no-life it in 3 days. And then they go on Reddit and say, this game is dead. Then the devs panic update and the cycle repeats. You literally cannot design around people who treat a game like a job and then get mad that it feels like a job.
Why are you the way that you are? Honestly, every time I try to do something fun or exciting, you make it not that way. I hate so much about the things that you choose to be.
So, what would a successful modern MMO actually need? Well, it doesn't need to be perfect, doesn't need 10 million players at launch or endless content. It just needs 3 things. A business model that respects players instead of draining them, developers with actual vision and competency, and a community that is moderated and shaped, not left to rot. That's it. That and a whole lot of luck. But you get the idea. Because if you do those 3 things well, you have a pretty good shot of being the next WoW or Final Fantasy XIV or hopefully something even better. Fail even one of them, and you get Wildstar, Rift, New World, Arcade, Lost Ark in the West, and pretty much every Korean cash grab MMO that lived and died in 6 months. And that's the real tragedy. MMOs could be one of the greatest genres in gaming. They're the closest thing we have to digital worlds. And I think many of us, from casual players to hardcore gamers, are secretly hoping for a breakthrough. But the genre is stuck because everyone involved keeps making the same mistakes. Corporations squeeze the player, developers copy instead of innovate, and players turn everything into a competition, and then we all wonder why the magic is gone. I don't think MMOs are dead. I think they're waiting for someone bold enough to build an MMO the right way. And when that game finally happens, it's probably not going to look like WoW. It might not even call itself an MMO. It'll just be one, a world worth existing in. Until then, we wait, we cope, we reinstall WoW or Final Fantasy XIV again, and we tell ourselves maybe the next one will be it. Those are my thoughts, and as always, I'd love to hear from you. Let me know what your take is in the comments, what killed your favorite MMO, and what would it take for you to commit to a new one long term. With all that being said, I'll see you guys on the next one.
Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, let me know by clicking that like button. And feel free to share it with your friends so they can enjoy it as well. And if you'd like to see more videos, you can subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon to be notified as soon as new videos are posted. You can also follow me on Facebook, and if you'd like, you can support my work on Patreon. Links to all that stuff can be found in the description below. This is Kephas. Until next time.